Hello friends, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Daffy Roth, aka, well, Joe, aka Daffy Roth. I wanted to make this video and as a follow-up to the Tell Me Why playthrough as for final thoughts when it's not 3 o'clock in the morning. I took a walk this morning, so I had some time to think about it. So some of the things, I'm going to break this down by chapters. You know, in the first chapter, they, you know, I want to preface this by saying that you live your life how you want to live it. I don't care. I'm of the mind I personally don't believe in children's transitioning. I believe, you know, having had some background education, having seen children go through education, and observing a lot of children, kids don't know what they want. You know, I can think back to at the age of 16 thinking that I knew what I wanted, and I don't know. But that being said, I also want to say that as far as people who struggle with their identity, and especially when it comes to gender, like, we as parents also have a duty to support our children. If you want to have your hair cut short, that's fine. You know, like, let them. You know, they don't want to wear girls' clothes or boys' clothes, vice versa, depending. Well, fine. You don't force your kid, you know, to do what. Don't force your kid into the mold that you want them to be. Yes, we're supposed to mold them, but at the same time, like, you need to support them too. And I don't, you know, as a Christian, I don't believe in reconditioning camps either. It's just, you know, in a way I almost felt it's brainwashing. So I think, yeah, you come to Christ in a lot of different ways. So, and I don't believe that that's one of them, because ultimately you're just forcing someone to do something they don't want to do. So I wanted to get that out of the way. So when it comes to the things that Marianne was struggling with, I can understand. You know, I have 2 twin daughters, and one of them, you know, is you know, I don't know how to deal with this, and especially in the time that was happening, like, there's not a lot of information. So it's come more to the prevalency now, you know, and at least in the last 3-4 years than so back in the 90s. So I mean, or even the early 2000s even. So that being said, like, I feel like Marianne was trying to reach out and figure out what, you know, was going on. But there is so much going on once you get to the end and you realize that, like, holy crap. I think the twins' anger, though, like, is really unjustified. Like, everything that I have is based off of that one night, right? Their life up to that point, I would kill to have that kind of life. Yeah, they didn't have the best things, but dude, they had a nice place to live. Like, their mother went out of the way to create these stories, to create these things. Like, so coming kind of from a story perspective, like, they didn't do a very good job there. I mean, coming at it from the outside, I just don't see it. Especially coming from a household where I was, you know, there was abuse and there was, you know, things going on. So, I kind of feel, you know, I can understand Tyler's, you know, anger towards, you know, I cut my hair and then my mom wanted to kill me. So I can understand that. But the way he treats everybody else, though, like, it's just unjustified. Like, it's unnecessary. Like, the twins just act like complete jerks. Especially to Sam. You know, Sam was around helping a lot. So, and then it's like, you know, you go through the first chapter, we're just kind of getting to know the twins and everything. And honestly, they come off as very unlikable. So, yeah, I mean, that's when it comes down to, you know, at least for the some of the things there. But overall, it was starting to pull me into the story, though. I wasn't really sold on it, really, probably until chapter 2. So, like, once we get into chapter 2 is when kind of things started. I think was the strongest chapter of them. And we started to, uncover the secrets that were being held. Now there was a conversation in chapter 2 that I felt was really shoehorned. So I think this game was trying to do too many things, right? Like, let's focus on transgender. Let's focus on, being outside. Let's focus on abuse. Let's focus on suicide. Let's focus on, like, it was trying to throw too much. And the problem with trying to throw too much is, like, it just doesn't land very well. Like, for instance, there's a conversation where you're looking at old pictures, and then Tyler's like, well, that's not me, that's not who it is, you, and that's the thing. Like, I don't struggle with gender identity, right? Like, and so I don't understand, I don't fully grasp the things that you may struggle with, right? However, the thing is this, and I think we can agree on this, is that is you. It's just a different version of you. I can look at pictures of myself when I was a kid, right? That's not who, it's not who I am now. But it is who you were, and all of a sudden you just throw in, oh, but I'm going to have top surgery. Like, literally, it just came out of nowhere. Like, when you follow as far as conversation goes, it just kind of just came out of nowhere. Like, wait, what? Like, why was that even a part of this conversation? And as opposed to at the end of the game, when he brings up the surgery again and having the snacks and stuff, like, yeah, that made sense right there, right? Like, that was a perfect, that made sense to have that there, but as opposed to it being, at that point, it was just kind of came out of left field and just didn't make a whole lot of sense. And I'm judging that based on that this is a narrative game. So this game is built on the narrative, and as far as narrative is concerned, it just that kind of took me out of the moment, and kind of really didn't. They could have done that a lot better, in my opinion. The memory stuff was really cool, though. I do like that, because there is something to be said on how we remember things, and ultimately where it leads up as far as how Tyler remembers that evening. And versus Allison, but it kind of ends up showing, what you end up finding out was that the memories were mixed together from from a memory earlier, in that Marianne didn't really have any intentions. There's no way Marianne was going to kill those kids. Are you freaking kidding me? Like, if you believe that, especially with everything that Tyler, what frustrates me too is that everything that Tyler found out, like, he said, no, she was going to kill me. Dude, come on. Like, seriously, everything that you found out, you stood up there in that attic, and you're still going to sit there and say that Marianne was going to kill you. Like, it's just, no. There's going to come a point in which, like, holy crap, I was wrong. So either Tyler's just in denial, which is quite possible, or it's just, like, I think what they want to do is try to push you into choosing one thing or another, and it's fine, I guess, as far as the game perspective goes, but really, if we're looking at this realistically, like, no, it would have, Tyler would have realized that, no, I'm, and he did have that, that moment in chapter 3. So, anyways, in chapter 2, it ends, chapter 2 to me was a lot of fun, especially when we sat snooping around the police department and going through the files. That was pretty cool. It was kind of tedious in a way, but it was kind of cool. I kind of wish there would have been more to that, though. But finding out that Tessa had called social services and things like that, and it makes sense as to why she did do that. And even coming off of that, right? Like, as a player perspective, I didn't see the point. Like, to me, the kids had a pretty good life, in my opinion. But it would have been nice to have more memories. Like, give us the memories where Marianne was not being good. Because the game just made it Marianne just seemed really like an awesome mom. Like, she struggled just like any other parent. So, kind of got confused with Michael and Tyler. Because Michael is gay, which is fine. But my experience with the majority of my gay friends I spoke to, the whole idea of the female anatomy just completely turns them off. And I mean, the thought of a vagina is literally ew. So, and yes, Tyler's gender may be male, but he's still biologically female. So I kind of, and then look, I struggle with my own sexual identity. Like, I've come to the terms that, like, I guess I'm bi when it comes to things, because, like, I'm not attracted to men, right? But I'm not going to sit here and say that, let's say I got into a threesome or something, am I going to say no? No, dude, it's sex, I don't care. But I'm not actively looking for companionship with a male. It's not something that intrigues me. Now, when it comes to trans, like, I'm not one to. It's an interesting thought for me, because honestly, yeah, a chick with if I met somebody, and here's the thing, like, if you actually went through the effort to make yourself look female, act female, and things like that, obviously that's what I'm attracted to. The sex parts, I guess, really doesn't matter. So I guess maybe. But still, at the same time, like, I don't know. I would roll with it, to be honest. I mean, I've never been in that situation, but I do know that there is. I'd roll with it. It's somebody who I'm attracted to. You can't help who you're attracted to. So, I've come to peace with that. But so, yeah, I was kind of confused on that part, because, really, she's like, well, Allison's not my type. Well, really, Tyler and Allison, they're identical twins. So it's literally, you cut Allison's hair short, throw a beard on her, and they're the exact same person. So you're attracted to certain qualities, and I understand that. But I was somewhat confused on that. So, and I get that it's not just black and white. So, but again, I went into this game wanting to experience, and kind of try to better my understanding of things. And ultimately, I did come out the other end of that. Forgiveness is always a big thing, and that's what I really liked in Chapter 2, too. I think probably one of my favorite moments in Chapter 2 is the confrontation with Tessa. And when we met her in the graveyard. That moment, I think, sums up a lot of what people need to realize. That even I'm a Christian, so if you ask me my opinion, I may not agree with your lifestyle, right? I may not agree with your choices, but ultimately, I'm called to love you like a brother and a sister, and that's what I'm going to do. I don't have to agree, but if you ask me what I believe, I will tell you. But in no way, like, is that a condemnation on you. I'm not going to judge you for your lifestyle. It's ultimately your choice. I've made some decisions that I'm not proud of either, so. But that being said, like, that conversation is like, she's like, I'm a better person for, following the word and so on and so forth. And yeah, no, she has a lot of her own issues that she's got to work with. Especially when finding out that, hey, her husband had cheated on her with freaking Marianne, which I don't understand at all. I'm sorry, like, I don't see that, but whatever. Like, he's so timid and just like, what? Like, Sam? Yeah, I can see Sam. Anyways, Tom's a douchebag. Let's just put that out there. Freaking cock. Anyways, so Tessa was hurt, and that's what ultimately destroyed, her relationship with Marianne, and why she called social services. She wanted to bring, vengeance. Like, she was, basically, I think there's something there when it comes to. So she, as a Christian, you know, vengeance is mine, thus saith the Lord, right? And when we take matters into our own hands, it can have consequences that aren't good. And I think she realized that when she called social services on Marianne, and then Marianne was going to kill herself, and then she ended up, it caused this whole dilemma. So, but like she said, like she accepted Tyler for who he is, you know, and that, my friends, is a very strong message for me, because ultimately that is what we are called to do. We accept you for who you are and where you're at in life. We may not agree with your lifestyle. We may not agree with, you know, your choices, but ultimately you're not going to agree with my choices either, and that's fine. But I can love you as a person, you know, and that was really awesome. I really liked that part. That part was really well done. So. And then we get into chapter 3. Now, here's the thing. With the whole fight between him and her, like, I didn't really understand the whole, all of a sudden now she's, you know, she's living, you know, she went to go stay at Uncle Eddie's place and things like that. Like, I just didn't really understand that, but I didn't really see it as that being that big. But, you know, chapter 3 kind of was like it didn't. I kind of feel like I think they had so many threads, so many lines in the water, so to speak, that they didn't really know how to wrap it up very well. Like for instance, when we go to like the memories that she started to have and stuff, like I think could have been expounded upon a little bit more. Maybe show Tyler's side of things a little bit, like when he was off, you know, what he was doing that day too. Like maybe do like a two-way street kind of deal. I thought that once, you know, the conversation between Allison and Michael was really good, but you know, when we got back to the police station, and actually back in chapter 2 too, the whole forgiveness between Eddie and Tyler was really cool too. I liked that scene too. So especially when you find out everything else, and the writing, you know, and that's the thing too is, well, I'll come to that later. So and then in chapter 3 you have so Allison's at the police station and she's talking to Uncle Eddie, and you know, you had that choice, right? That you had that come to Jesus moment where it's like, am I going to tell the truth about what I'm struggling with? That I'm the one who killed Marianne, not Tyler. And the thing is this. I kind of feel that they didn't really follow through with that choice, like, at all. You know, like, because later on when you're confronting Tom, it's like, well, yeah, he's like, well, I'll tell everybody. What would your uncle think? And it never came up where she could have been like, he already knows. I literally just told him like a couple hours ago. You know, like, you have no leg to stand on, you douchebag. Because make no mistake, he is. Like, I can talk about forgiveness, and sure, you can forgive what he did, but no, fuck him. So, you know, he's like, well, what, is supposed to give you handouts? Yeah, he's your fucking kids, dude. Like, this is the result of your behavior. You know, you need to face the Marianne should just take him to court, honestly. So, anyways, but I think Marianne also loved Tessa too and didn't want to hurt her more than she already has. I think there's that aspect to it too. So, but I thought the whole thing with Michael and Tyler, once they got over the kind of confusion and the oddness of that, I was like, yeah, you know, Michael's pretty cool people, you know, and with everything with them both being outsiders, you know, I wish them the best, you know, and I thought that whole part was really well done too. And not only that, because Michael helped Tyler realize that, hey, you know, you're being rough, and then Tyler realizes too that it's like, yeah, I've been pushing my sister to do things, you know, harder than I probably should. So, So yeah, I mean, when it comes to that, that was a really cool part, and then you have the whole confrontation with Tom, which honestly I thought I thought could have been done way better. It They were building up to this whole thing, and it just kind of just it didn't really, I wasn't really given. There weren't any choices that you were really given during that whole thing. That's where I just kind of feel like it just kind of teetered out. That whole thing in the attic, though, dude, that was freaking amazing. I kind of wish there was more of that. Like, Mary Ann's fucking awesome, dude. Like, seriously, like, she put her degree to freaking work for that engineering. So she definitely got something out of that, because that was amazing. Like, that whole part. Like, I kind of would have liked to have seen more of the whole goblin stuff throughout the game. Like, there's so many more stories in that book that could have been brought to life, so like, but that whole puzzle part was really cool, and I really enjoyed that. So I would have liked to have seen more of that. But the confrontation with Tom, or not Tom, but of Sam too. I think the game wanted you to be more sympathetic to it, but look, he's been living that way for a while, and having dealt with somebody who is an alcoholic and things like that. While personally I never did the put my hand down thing, they have stated even themselves that sometimes you just, at some point you just need to drop the hammer, because sometimes it's the only way they're going to wake up. And I think Allison was, in my opinion, the action that she took that time, basically calling him out, was the right way to do things, because he living in self-pity, living in, he loved Marianne. I get it. Like, if there's any character that I associate more with in that game, it's gonna be Sam. I've been in love with I am in love with with people who don't love me that way, and I can do anything and everything for them, and I'd rather be eaten by wolves than marry you. And it's a tough, it's tough, but at some point you need to realize that, hey, this isn't, it's not healthy, and this is only destroying me, and I need to let it go. So Allison's confrontation there, I thought was really good. In my opinion, like, I think Sam needed to hear it. Like, you need to let it go. Judging by the letter at the end of the game, like, it could be both ways. I don't know. But judging by the end of the game, it looks like it turned out all right. So he got back in the AA, got himself cleaned up, looking at repairing. If anything, I think Sam would have been probably the best ally for those twins. I mean, not only that, he took care of them. He cared about them. Like, he was almost a father to them. While Mary was alive. And not only that, but he kept the house up. And yes, he did it more in the memory of Marianne than anything. But he loved those kids, man. He even went to the, back in the first chapter too, he even went out of his way. Well, actually, no, it would have been the second chapter. He got on the Googles, to see how do I talk to Tyler, and they're just complete jerks about it, and I really hated that. Like, dude, he went out of his way to try to be a better person. And like, this is ultimately the narrative also that happens in the real world too. It's like, when we try to better ourselves, it's like, it's never good enough, right? Like give us, things are going to change, but it takes time. But even for the people that do make an effort, it's just like, it's never good enough. So at that point, it's like, well, then forget then, but he did make an effort, and I really like that they did show that. I thought Tyler's response was completely uncalled for, though. Both Tyler and Allison, douchebags. I don't think Sam got the love that he deserved, honestly. So, again, not excusing his actions, but no, actually, he never cheated. He was in love with Marianne. It would have been nice to see more interactions between him and his wife too. Like, I would just have a game just with freaking Sam. I'm just kidding, but still, I identify more with Sam in that game than anybody. But so, the conclusion was kind of meh. Like, it was nice to find out that memories are a funny thing. and that they ultimately did choose to keep keep those memories, keep the voice, and I think they should. Like, it's definitely, good for them. And it keeps them close. Like Allison is, going to school. They're living in Juneau. Tyler is doing, his thing. Sam's in AA. Tessa, is out, doing missionary work. Tom's in a dumpster on fire, hopefully. But the kids, here's the thing, right? I always want to leave you optimistic. And there's a part of me that maybe, well, this is completely fictional. Maybe there's always a hope for forgiveness in the future, right? Maybe Tom realizes he's a douchebag, reaches out to the kids and be like, hey, I'm sorry for everything that I did. It'd be a hard thing to do, but, it's always there. So, overall, the game wasn't bad. It was pretty good. I liked it. The only issues, there's a lot of narrative things, though, like I said, like the thing in Chapter 2. There's a lot of little mistakes that kind of take you out, like, finding the, when you're reading through the application on the chief's desk and the time traveler police officer application, and then you have the, later on in Sam's garage, you're finding statements from the year 2020 when it's 2015. Those things need to be, shortened up because that is going to take the player out of the experience. So, especially when trying to immerse them in those feelings. But there were times, man, it did hit me in some parts because I've been there and I understand those emotions and those feelings. So, it may not have the same impact on everybody, but so yeah, like I think if they had focused more, narrowed their vision as focus on one or two things, right? Like, and they really should preface that suicide thing rather than the other disclaimer about, they really should preface that at the beginning, because I would have loved to have been able to have that. And I'm not good at editing, so to have that at the beginning of every episode, because ultimately that is, these are, if you're struggling, like here's some numbers and things to call. So, but yeah, like I think if they had narrowed their focus, I think you would have had a tighter narrative. Some more interactions with Tom would have been nice, because like I did kind of come out of nowhere, but it was kind of cool because I thought it was going to be far before the police station. So, but yeah, overall it was good. Did I learn anything from it? I mean, not anything more than I already knew. I think for me, I was kind of hoping to see more of maybe what Tyler would experience as far as adversity from from people who aren't, like, kind of like on the boat. I was kind of expecting more from that kind of thing, but I guess it really wasn't. But ultimately, I came away with this: treat others how you want to be treated. I don't judge people based on what they do, who they are. Support your kids. Like, don't force them to be little yous. Support them. If they have interests, let them explore those interests within reasonable. You don't want to let them get hurt. If they want to wear boys' clothes, they want to play boys' toys, or vice versa, let them. It's not going to hurt anything. Like, seriously. Let them be who they are. Don't force them to be something they aren't. So, support your kids. Be there for them. Talk to them. Have those conversations. Why do you feel this way? And then go from there. So, we don't ever want to get in a position where our kids are afraid to talk to us about things. So yeah, I'm going to wrap this up. It was a good game. Yeah, it was good. So, all right. Well, then, that wraps this game up. We'll see what's coming up next. I did go ahead and get, what was that game? Life is Strange. So, May do that, may do something else. I don't know yet. So, but, friends, until the next video, may all of your stories be glad ones, and may your roads be smooth and short. Until then, love one another, give somebody a hug, be awesome, and be you. Just be you. I love you. Yeah, if you're off that.